Scott Tranter, Director of Data Science, Decision Desk HQ, co-founder of Optimist Analytics, is with us now. Scott, good to see you. The court has now accepted you as an expert in these matters. I think it's fascinating when we put the Harris poll up, right? He's way up and way up in the national tracking poll. Then you say if he's convicted, okay, it goes way down. What if we turn that around and say what would happen to the numbers if he was acquitted?
It's interesting. I have not seen a polling question on that. That might be a good one for NewsNation going forward. But I would imagine at minimum, it would keep the polls where they are now. And at best, probably he'd claw back some of those independents that he loses in that Harvard or that Harvard poll you mentioned there. It's one of those things, as a pollster, these questions are good for the news, but they're really not. They wouldn't get an A in any polling class because we actually have to see it happen. It's a hypothetical going forward.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. How accurate are this sort of, when you ask people, hey, if this thing in the future happens, how are you going to feel?
They're usually not accurate. And it's mostly because not all the circumstances are out there. The one thing I do know for sure is Donald Trump is going to have a say, right? Like, all these people ask these questions, and they get an off-the-cuff answer, but that's before they hear Donald Trump's side of the story. No matter what you think about it, he's going to have an opinion about it, and he's pretty loud microphone. He may be able to claw some of those people back.
All right, so we put up the graphic again about what has happened after each one of the indictments, that his polling has gone up, his fundraising has gone up. Probably the person who got hurt the most by the indictments against Donald Trump was Ron DeSantis, in a sense. He's smiling and nodding along to what I'm saying. So I look at this, and I look at these numbers. Why is it then that if he gets convicted, we get a different effect than an indictment?
Well, the interesting part is, so these numbers that you're looking at there, that's among the GOP electorate, right? And that's where Ron DeSantis got hurt the most. That's where he's running right now. Where the numbers we see on conviction, that's among the general electorate, where we have independents in there, and independents go either way on that. And they still have trust in the legal system.
So these independents, and I think Shan Wu may be thinking that there are those independents to find to put on a jury, right, against Donald Trump. How do those independents view how Donald Trump is treated? Does Donald Trump's complaints about things not being fair resonate with them?
They do with some and they do with others. My favorite thing about independents is that most independents aren't true independents. When we look at independents, some of them tend to vote almost always Democratic or always Republican. And so what we see here is they tend to go towards whatever they're predisposed to. An independent in Western Pennsylvania, predisposed to be a Republican voter, may identify as an independent, predisposed. An independent in California, predisposed to be a Democrat. So I think that's where we see both the conviction or non-conviction. We see these independents go towards their priors or their previous beliefs.
All right. Is there a way right now, and I mean, you think about all of the other sort of the permutations of this, whether the case is delayed, things are thrown out, conviction, acquittal, on and on. Is there really a way to poll it?
There's a way to poll it so we can talk about it, but the best time to poll it is after he's acquitted or after he's convicted. And that's really where it'll be interesting, where the timing of these cases are. I haven't watched enough Law and Order to know when it is, but man, if there's one of these that happens beforehand, the polling after will tell us all the answers.
All right, there you go. And then we have the election.
And then the election.
All right, good to see you, Scott. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.